which runs with the land.
Area variances
Area
run with the land.
Run with the land. Yes.
On a rental property, do we have any enforcement issues as far as the house coming down almost on the people that are living in it? Do we have any enforcements, or do we have any inspector that can go and see if there is a fire hazard?
I would say the same thing applies as we said before. If you see something, say something.
And there are
Okay.
also property maintenance standards. There's a property
Correct.
maintenance standard in the village of Woodbury, so the building inspector can be notified if the grass is overgrown, the retaining wall is crumbling, the roof is falling in. So you do have to maintain your property. Yeah. But rentals are allowed. The only thing that we have regulations for are Airbnbs. So if you have an Airbnb, it has to be registered. It has to be registered with the building inspector.
Whether the property is used for a rental,
Which
Hold
the
on one
property
second.
maintenance- Sorry.
whether the property is used for a rental or not, the code still applies to it regardless. So the use of it being a rental property doesn't affect anything in terms of inspections or anything like that.
Have a fire inspector or someone coming in before the next person takes over. We don't have an inspector.
I don't believe you.
Building inspectors don't have authority to enter a private dwelling unless they have a warrant or they are invited in by the homeowner. So if the building inspector does inspect something like that is going on, they would, again, this is where the complaint form, having to build the case, and the time comes in. They'd have to come in and build the case, present proof to a judge. This is why I need to get a warrant. We need to get in. Yeah.
What I was wondering, though, but based on what he was saying, was is there, you said that there's, I guess, some sort of standard requirement, things that are not acceptable.
The property maintenance standard. That's in our code.
Where is that actually, is there a way that, I mean, is there something we can access online that says what is considered not retained?
Actually, it's in the handout that's going to come out. There's a link. There's a QR code on the paper that's going to come out that goes right to the Woodbury zoning code. And if you put in property maintenance, it will list the items that are considered under property maintenance.
Thank you. Because we also have some rental property around that's not even maintained, and I'm wondering.
Yep. Nope. There is recourse. There is recourse for that as well.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes. What? Actual blueprint? Is that an actual blueprint? I mean, a physical piece of paper, or is it just written?
It is, and
Oh,
it's also
document?
in the document link that will come out tonight.
Okay, it's not a blueprint.
No.
It's a map. It's a fluid document that is a map for the plan. I have a question about the water quality protection overlay district. What kind of diligence goes into projects that are located within those districts, in the zoning overlay, and is it more stringent than a normal project?
Yeah, there's an extra layer of restrictions on what activities and projects that can be taken in that overlay district. So one of them is no storage of fertilizers or pesticides within 100 feet in the 100-foot buffer. So because you don't want those contaminants going into the drinking water, or the storage of fuels or trucks or stuff like that. So that code section is another layer of restrictions on what can happen. And in the 50-foot buffer, there's actually supposed to be no disturbance at all. You can't put anything in within the 50 feet.
Yeah,
That is-
it was put together in order to protect both the drinking water and the surface water bodies of Woodbury. You have the lakes, you have the creeks, you have the streams, and what the water overlay protection, the whole idea behind it is if you protect the contamination from those water bodies, you'll protect your drinking water from contamination as well. And those drinking water and those water bodies may not just be the drinking water for Woodbury of itself. You know, there's things like if you look at over in Harriman, that's the head of the Ramapo River. That goes down to Rockland and New Jersey. So these streams and lakes, they all form watersheds, and they all flow into different watersheds, into different drinking water basins. So what you're trying to do is protect those natural boundaries and those water bodies from contamination and keep your wildlife, your streams, your fish, your animals. That protects all of them from being contaminated and affected in kind of in a row. It was a very lengthy look at something, and we put it together. And I'm back in my other. When I wore the other hat up here, I helped craft that one, so that one's very near and dear to me. That's something that we really, really are proud of in Woodbury, is we're protecting all the water sources here from contamination.
So if a project is located in the overlay, is that a basis for limiting the activities that would contaminate the water?
Yeah, typically we would have the project moved outside of that buffer zone. Oh, moratoriums?
Yes.
I'll try to answer it. That's a village board thing.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
so I won't ask you. I won't ask you.
Well, talk about
Well-
what you're allowed.
Yeah.
So,
So
what's the question?
My
Let's see, let's
question
listen.
is, my question is, with these moratoriums in place, that was one of the questions. Like, what is allowed? Like, are you allowed to approve any projects? And if you do approve them, do you have to wait for the moratoriums to be lifted? And if you don't, approving one project, say for a big developer, would that open up a can of worms in possible litigation should you approve one project but deny all other projects?
So that's it's a great question, and I'll do the best I can to answer it. So as far as with the moratorium that's in place right now, developers are allowed to go through the process, but they cannot get an approval. So they can bring the application to the finish line, but the planning board can't take action on that application in one of two ways. Either they get a waiver from the village board, so they would have to go and apply to the village board and say, this is why we should be exempt from the water moratorium, and there's a list of reasons behind that. Or they have to wait for the moratorium to be lifted in order for us to approve that project. Every project that comes in front of the planning board, there's a water and a sewer demand form that gets filled out for that project. That project's reviewed by our engineer, is reviewed by the water superintendent, so those projects have to be signed off on by them. And they can't get a project approved that's going to increase water usage. If it's like an addition to a home or an expansion of a home, if they're going to add additional water usage to that home, that project can't be approved by us unless they get a waiver. If that makes any, I hope that makes sense.
Isn't there another?
And let's just say, but if someone was going to ask for a waiver, right, and it's granted, does that open you up for possible litigation?
What I can say is that every application and circumstances stand on their own merit. So just because one application is approved doesn't mean another application that's similar to it needs to be approved. As far as it getting us open to litigation, that's above my pay grade. You know, if the lawyer tells me we're legally allowed to do it, then I'm going to go on her advice. But everything does set a precedent, so there's that piece of information.
Right, and you guys should realize there's one more caveat unless they change the law. There's one more caveat unless they change the law is if you made it through the secret process and finished the secret process that you outlined.
Right.
Before the moratorium was put in place, the moratorium doesn't really apply to you.
We're getting to the tail end of those.
Right, but I'm saying there is
so.
that one possibility.
Just keep in mind that we can't grant the waiver,
No.
nor the approval if it's not allowed under the moratorium. Anything else? Once, twice, 3 times a lady?
Is this section recorded? Is going to be on the website?
Yep. It'll be on our YouTube channel, and there's a QR code on the paper you're going to get for that with that too. All of the village meetings, planning, zoning, village board, are all on that YouTube channel. So again, if you got some insomnia, go ahead and tune it on. Planning board meetings, we average about 3.5 hours. Yeah,
Right,
my wife has it.
coffee.
Done?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time tonight.